Synopsis. A supersoldier from future Earth, after a mission gone wrong, is betrayed and hunted by the people he once fought for. However, through a freak twist of events involving a stolen classified portal and some odd serums, he ends up getting dragged along by a psychopathic criminal through this portal, never to be seen again. Until he woke up to the sound of crying. A supersoldier is reincarnated as a child in another world, one full of new people, places, and opportunities. This time, he's dead set on living it in a brighter, happier way, thinking he's finally gotten a life away and safe from the Earth and its dark, manipulative hands. However, unfortunately, destiny has other plans in store. Chapter 1, How Could I Have Known? The year 2090. Black Facility 47. The subjects experienced lethal hemorrhaging in the brain, and those that couldn't handle the increased neural activity, leading to several psychological problems including psychopathy, retardation, induced autism, and... So what you're telling me, is that it failed again? Yes, sir. Sigh. The head director sighed after receiving the report from one of his officers. He then stood up and walked to a window where he could oversee a few dozen capsules containing adult males. All of them were either sleeping or undergoing surgical operations. This was Black Facility 47. It was a top-secret base whose purpose was to carry out the supersoldier program. This program was supposed to create and engineer enhanced soldiers that surpassed human limits and worked alongside machines, creating the perfect human weapon. This consisted of extreme training, genetic engineering, and cybernetic enhancement. However, despite having the program ongoing for nearly 5 years, the results were dismal. Hundreds died under the experiments and tests, and those that didn't were almost always hurt or disabled in some way. Black Facility 47 was, in fact, one of the few remaining facilities that still ran the program. There used to be 50, but when information leaked about the projects to the public and soldiers started mysteriously dying or disappearing, many facilities were shut down. Only the more successful ones, like Facility 47, stayed operational. But that success was starting to disappear, and the looming threat of shutting down was nigh. If he wasn't careful, the head director might also disappear along with the facility's shutdown, something which had happened to other directors for the sake of keeping information under wraps. This was a dangerous job to be in, but risk came with reward, and if he could find a way to succeed, he would enjoy walking one of the highest paths in life along with the elites. This dilemma made the director anxious, desperate, and scared, but also hopeful. He never lost sight of gaining status, and by now, he was willing to do anything to achieve his goal. That fire was starting to grow dim though. It had been a long time since he had heard good news. Fortunately though, today was one of those rare days. We were able to find something though, sir. HM? What is it? The director turned his head back to the officer giving the report. This officer was one of his most trusted aides, and he would never give false hope. We think we might have narrowed down the best candidates. You see, we've consistently had better results with younger subjects, especially those at least under the age of 24. There was recently a recruit that I pulled who was age 16, and he dash. What? You pulled a minor as a subject? Suddenly, the director flew into a rage. Doing something like that was a huge violation of protocol. Just the fact that this officer went over his head to do something so risky almost made him pull his gun and shoot the man. His trust in this officer though made him hesitate, and that gave the officer the chance to hastily explain himself. Please let me explain, sir. Yes, the recruit was age 16, but he was an orphan from a school in the slums. There's nobody who had any connection to him, and I left no trace of his kidnapping. Besides that though, this subject showed the best results yet. Sir, he was able to get through all the preliminary trials without injury. We were even able to move on to Phase 3 before he showed signs of rejection to the treatment. The director stayed silent, and eventually removed his hand from his holster. The officer sighed and continued. Sir, I think we've found the answer. Younger subjects. Their adaptability far outstrips older soldiers, both psychologically and physiologically. They're the key to creating super soldiers. If it's with them, it can be done. Do you know what will happen if word of this leaks? Yes, sir. But if we don't succeed at all, if we don't take the risk, then we won't have any hope. Sir, I've done the tests. If we can get young subjects, around the age of 6, then we'll be able to utilize their adaptability and raise them into super soldiers. It might take time, but if we doctor the documents to show the success of the young subjects, we can buy time. All of this assumes we succeed. Nothing is a guarantee, sir. However, if you give me the green light, I'll do everything myself. Nothing will leak. Please trust me, sir. The officer pleaded with the director. It wasn't just the director's life that was on the line. His was too, as was his family's. He was even more desperate than the director. The director paced around the room hearing his officer. This was exceptionally risky, but the officer was right. They needed to succeed. Failure wasn't an option. If this risk had a chance of success, then he needed to take it. As for the morality, the director had already gone beyond that. The things he carried out in this program crushed that sense years ago. It was all business now. Besides, his superiors only cared about results. If anything, from the things he knew about, they were more demented than him. After taking a second to ponder, he made his decision. All right. You do what you need to do. I'm giving you full authority. However, if I find that anything leaks out, that won't happen, sir. I've never failed you before. Then go. Start as soon as possible. Understood. Saluting, the officer hastily left the room. The director also plopped down in his chair, both uneasiness and hope flickering through his eyes. The year 2115, 25 years later. Mr. President. We have an emergency. In a secure room inside a towering skyscraper, the president and several other officials sat at a conference table. This meeting had been called within the last 10 minutes in response to a sudden event. Let me hear it. There's been an attack recently on one of our facilities. It's the council. Of course it is. What did they hit? The president sighed tiredly. This was the name of the largest criminal syndicate in the world, and they were the bane of governments across the globe. This wasn't the first time they've come up, and lately, they had been attacking various facilities around the continent. They hit Black Facility 108. 108, which one is that? It's the facility running Project Wonderland, sir. What? Suddenly, the president snapped to attention. Project Wonderland was one of their most classified projects, and it was also one of the most heavily guarded. To think that place got raided. Even if it was by the council, it was an impossible task to pull off. How long ago was it raided? The last transmission we received was 2 hours ago, but we've been able to track them down to where they took the stolen project tech. So you have their location? Is it accurate? Yes, sir. We have a strike team ready to deploy. We're sending an SS Team Alpha, but we need your signature before he can deploy. Very well. Hearing that name, the president went quiet for a second before nodding. To send in that team meant that the situation really was dire, but that's exactly why he had to go. He was then handed the papers, and once they were signed, one of the generals sent a transmission to an unknown location. The green light on the raid to retake their tech was given. Meanwhile, 20 miles away from the location that the criminal syndicate was holding the tech, SS Team Alpha was lying in wait inside a small safe house, around which was a bustling city with tall buildings and neon signs. This team consisted of a single person. It was a boy, no more than 18 years of age. He was a bit over 6 foot tall, had brown hair, hazel eyes, and pale skin. He looked just like an ordinary guy who would be going into college soon. This boy was sitting on a couch inside the safe house reading a book that looked more like a manuscript, wearing sweats and a hoodie that covered his body. The cover of the book said Beyond Good and Evil, and the boy was reading it relaxedly. What's with you and always reading those books, huh? Suddenly, a voice came from another room. A man came walking in. He had a long brown beard and looked like some kind of lumberjack, speaking in a rough voice. His clothes were in shambles with a few stains. The boy looked away from his book and toward the lumberjack who was taking a swig from a big bottle of hooch, likely the source of the stains. Maybe you should read this book sometime. Friedrich Nietzsche is one of the most brilliant men to ever live. His books could teach you a thing or two about leading life. You think I need advice from a kid like you? Besides, those books are banned nowadays, especially to you. How'd you get your hands on one? It's called the internet and a printer. Plus a little help from a certain level of security clearance. Saying that, the boy held up a card. It was metal, and seeing it, the lumberjack's eyes went wide. Since when did you steal my card? I've had it for a week actually. Why you? Next time be more careful when you decide to pass out drunk. And you should really start keeping track of your stuff. Even knowing you, I'm surprised you haven't noticed it was gone. Shut up, brat. Give me that. Snatching the card back, the lumberjack huffed and took another swig. The boy smirked and went back to reading the book. After calming down and finishing his drink, the man spoke again. By the way, they gave the green light. You're due to start in 30. Oh, all right. You need to be careful this time. I know you've gone up against them before, but the stuff they took is some dark shit. There's definitely a trap in place. But whatever do you mean? According to the intelligence report, they only stole a few medicine vials and a giant magnet. The boy chuckled deviously as he picked up the briefing. On it described the stolen items that were supposedly some medicine vials and a small particle cyclotron, but those were obviously just covers for what they really were. Don't play stupid, brat. That's the kind of information people kill themselves over. To have stolen that stuff means there's big shit going down, so screw your head on straight. Alright, don't get your panties in a twist. Not my first rodeo. Excuse me? You better shut that trap, otherwise I'll make you wear actual panties on this operation, you pussy. Hoo-hoo, I apologize for my language, sir. Now if you'll excuse me, I have a mission to prepare for. Chuckling, the boy saluted the fuming lumberjack and disappeared into a back room. Seeing him go, the man just sighed and took out a cigar, lighting it and puffing out some smoke. Damn super soldiers always think they can talk smack. I've been his superior for over a decade. Don't I deserve a little respect? Humph. A few minutes later, the boy came walking out. He was now dressed in metallic armor that looked like a nanosuit. That suit held a pistol on each hip, a knife on the leg and arm, and a rifle on his back. There were also magazines around his torso held magnetically. He carried his helmet in one of his hands. SS-008 reporting for duty. The boy, otherwise known as SS-008, stood and saluted the lumberjack who was lazing around on the couch, smoking a cigar. Despite the formal presentation, the man just scoffed. Don't act like you suddenly care about procedure. You've got one job, kill everyone and take what we need. I know you're already prepared, so get out of here and see if you don't bust your tiny balls. Sir, I do not understand. Huh? The lumberjack squinted his eyes at the smiling boy. My balls are fat and large. How could they possibly dash? Shut up and fuck off. Hee. Laughing mischievously, the boy dodged the full bottle of alcohol that was thrown at him and ran out of the building. The lumberjack was left smoking from both the mouth and head in annoyance. However, as he ran out, the lumberjack caught a glimpse of a tattoo on the boy's neck. This tattoo was of a black cat, and seeing the tattoo it felt like he was being stared down by a predator. He suddenly sighed, and his anger subsided. He felt pity, though it was unknown if it was for the boy or for the enemies. Outside the city was rural, barren land. The boy, now operating under the tag SS-008, trudged across some cold desert dirt and brush. Above him was the night sky, and behind him was the city that shone with bright lights, tall glass skyscrapers, and neon holograms. For a long minute, the boy stared back at the city from under a metal, featureless helmet, many thoughts flying through his head. The cold wind blew past him, and just as it started to calm, the boy took out his rifle and turned away from the city. He looked off into the distance. He was only 2 miles away from the target. The place that the council was holding the stolen goods was an abandoned 80-year-old factory. It was well guarded with the remnants of the forces that had survived the initial raid. However, it was no less dangerous, because SS-008 would now have to infiltrate and steal something from this fortress. SS-008 continued walking toward that very factory with just his armor and weapons. Soon, the time for him to start had come. All around the factory were enemies and spotlights. They stood up on rooftops, patrolled around the facility with jeeps, and scanned the area with turrets. There were also robots that constantly watched the surroundings. Suddenly, one of the soldiers at the factory who was posted up on a rooftop spotted something in the dark. It was a figure the size of a man, and it stood on the edge of one of the spotlights eerily. Looking through his sniper scope, he got a closer look. When he did though, chills ran down his spine. It's him. Hey. It's him. Who? Where? Down there. At the spotlight. The man pointed a laser at where the figure was, and one of the men operating the spotlights moved it to shine on that position. However, there was nothing there. Despite that though, the people who looked at the area also felt their necks tingle. Nobody there would be falsely alarmed, and there was only one person they knew of who could suddenly disappear like how they thought just happened. It's him, sound the ala dash. Splat. As the man was trying to shout, a new hole was suddenly opened up in his head. Blood splattered in the air, and his body collapsed to the ground. The helmet he was wearing did nothing to protect him. Many of the men around the factory heard this, and all of them started to call in on their communication channels. Before they could though, bullets started entering everyone's brains. Splat, 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 splat. In only seconds, every single person patrolling or scanning outside the factory had a new bloody hole in their heads. The spotlight stopped moving, the jeeps patrolling veered off and crashed, and even the robots and turrets that were scanning around mysteriously shut down. The surroundings went dead silent. SS-008, who was now on one of the roofs of the factory, looked at all his kills with apathetic eyes. He then looked down. Within the factory, he couldn't detect any signs of life. It was odd, and definitely a red flag. But that meant nothing to him, and after dropping a sticky explosive on the roof he was standing on, it exploded, and he jumped into the hole. Tap. Landing on the ground with a light foot, he scanned around with his rifle raised. He found nothing except for dead machines, cold steel, and an eerily quiet breeze. But suddenly, take him down. A feminine voice echoed through the factory. With it, SS-008 felt a threat to his life for the first time in a long time, and he dashed to the side. PSH. Or, at least he tried. Before he could move, long skinny spears were shot at him with the speed of a bullet. There were 5, and each one was aimed toward his limbs and torso, intending to pin him down. But he was able to slightly dodge fast enough. When they arrived, only one impaled him in his right leg. Without hesitation, he skillfully took out a knife and slashed at the spear. Despite being metal, it was cut like butter, and he continued to move from his position as a sitting duck after taking the spear out of his leg. But that wasn't the end of it. From the dark pits of the factory, distortions started to make their way out and toward him. SS-008 recognized this as a cloaking device, and he shot at all movement that he could barely detect. Bang, 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 bang. Gunshots rang and echoed out against the metal walls, and several distortions collapsed, revealing bodies cloaked in black. Some got past though, and he was quickly put into close combat. Grabbing a pistol and a knife, he proceeded to fight off these distortions. They all attempted to stab him with swords or knives or shoot him with guns, but with his skillful movement and uncanny accuracy, he was able to avoid most attacks and kill more distortions. The rest that he didn't dodge were blocked by his state-of-the-art armor. Come on! We were prepared for this, and he's only one person. Take him down. The woman's voice echoed out once more like an announcer, and with it, even more distortions appeared and went on to attack SS-008. More spears also started to be fired. However, after hearing and analyzing the voice with the onboard systems of his suit, SS-008 was able to identify the origin. There. He looked toward a certain area of the factory. There, he could barely pick up electromagnetic flickers in the atmosphere. Raising his gun, he fired there. Bang! Zap! Hitting something, the bullet was stopped, but the invisibility cloak was removed. It revealed a small office-like building. Smiling under his mask, SS-008 killed the distortions around him, dodged the oncoming spears, and charged the building. His suit heated up as power gathered, and he rammed the wall like a bull. Boom! The wall was blown away, and inside was revealed a bright room. In this room, SS-008 quickly spotted 4 things. The first was a giant magnet ring the size of a person against one wall. The second was a table with a suitcase on it containing 3 vials. The third was a wall of 9 high-powered anti-material rifles stacked in a 3x3 square pointed straight at him. The fourth was a woman who stood behind the rifles. Bye-bye. Click. Boom. After smiling in victory, the woman pressed a button, and the rifles fired. 9 huge bullets were sent point-blank towards him at supersonic speeds. He couldn't dodge. In that instant, SS-008 had several questions run through his head. Who the hell lines up guns like that? Why was she prepared for such a specific scenario? This is just ridiculous. Splat. The bullets tore through him and huge bloody holes were created on his body. He was sent flying back and collapsed on the floor with a gory sound. Ha ha. Another win. And this time, I took out the most notorious supersoldier. Man, you've really caused me problems, you know? The woman laughed manically and walked out from behind the giant guns, approaching the body of SS-008. She was a curvy woman dressed in a black bodysuit. Her black hair and defined face looked innocent as she moved next to and peered over SS-008's bleeding body. I've never seen your face. You always have that helmet on when you obliterate my little labs and hideouts. Now, it's time to see my bane. My evil prince who foils all my plans. Reaching down with a wide smile, the woman grabbed the head and took off the helmet. Underneath was a smirking face. Oh! You're so handsome. And alive. She staggered back in surprise, but before the distortions around them could act to finish off SS-008, he shot up and grabbed the woman, holding her hostage. Nobody move. SS-008 wrapped up the woman and placed a pistol against her head. He then quickly backed toward the building with the items, making sure they couldn't try anything. Ah! Don't kill me. Listen to him, you fools. Put those weapons down. Don't you know who he is? The woman shouted hysterically, and the distortions gradually laid down their weapons. Seeing how much of a coward the girl was, SS-008 sighed in relief, though he didn't show it on his face. He held the woman against his body, pistol pointed right at her temple. During this, nanites within his body moved through his limbs and sealed the holes created by the bullets. These nanites in the suit were the only reasons he could keep moving, though it caused him much pain. In only a matter of seconds, the bleeding stopped and the suit began to inject drugs into him that would allow him to maintain combat effectiveness. However, the next moment, the woman smiled wickedly and expertly shot her hand toward a wound on his leg. And it was a syringe, and before SS-008 could react, it poked into him. PSH. Hey! Don't make me shoot you. Crack. Ag. After grabbing the girl's hand and smacking away the syringe, he twisted her wrist, causing her to cry out in pain. Unfortunately, the syringe completely injected the stuff into him. While he didn't know what it was, he couldn't let his hostage go and kept his cool. He quickly sent out a transmission using his mind. Headquarters, this is SS-008. Operation has been compromised. Requesting immediate support. Packages have been identified on site and I'm currently holding a hostage. Enemies are still present and I've been injected with an unknown substance, possibly poison. Awaiting your arrival. With that, he stopped communicating. He continued to remain in a standoff with the distortions while holding the woman hostage. Surprisingly, she became calm despite the broken wrist. Can you feel it? After a while, the woman spoke. SS-008 didn't respond, but glanced at her in curiosity. The injection. It's a beautiful thing, the substance that was in there. Did they tell you what it was? What was it? And what's the antidote? Hoo-hoo, it's not poison. No, it's something far greater. It's the gateway. The hell are you talking about? What's it going to do to me? If it does anything, I'm going to kill you, so you better think carefully. SS-008 tightened his grip on her neck and pressed the gun harder into her temple. She just smiled though as if she liked it. Hoo-hoo, don't worry. I've just given you a wonderful gift. It has effects, but they're not ones you want to avoid. Hee. Though, you might want to be cautious. The people behind you, they might have things to say about this. Be careful. Your value now exceeds imagination. Just shut up. Your life will be over soon anyway. Oh, I don't think so. If anything, it's just starting to begin. Hey! What are you? The woman grabbed the arms that were pinning her back and removed them. SS-008 was about to strengthen his grip, but bafflingly, he couldn't exert any strength, like he was paralyzed. He fell to the floor, and the woman smiled sweetly as she looked down at his incapacitated body and incredulous face. I'll be seeing you later. You know. Now that I look at you closer, you really are very handsome. Maybe if we have time, we'll have to play around at my super-secret hideout. You know, before we have to leave forever. Oh. This is just so romantic. The poor little soldier and the beautiful princess tied by fate. Hee. Anyway, I should get going. I have to prepare for the big finale. Here's a parting gift. A token of my undying sincerity. Bending down, the woman sweetly pinched SS-008's nose and gave him a kiss on the cheek. He could only stare at her, paralyzed by both the mysterious substance and by her insane mannerisms. The woman then skipped off out of the factory like a little girl. SS-008 started losing consciousness not long after, and the world soon went black. Chapter 2, that everything would be flipped upside down. Hey! Get up, you brat! Smack! There he is. After getting a slap to the face, SS-008 opened his eyes. The first thing he saw was the roof of the factory where he went unconscious. The second was the face of the lumberjack who was puffing smoke into his face. Don't you know smoking is bad for you? Don't you know that you should keep that shit-eating trap of yours shut? Get the hell up. Heh. Chuckling, SS-008 went and stood up. However, as he got to his feet, he staggered unsteadily, prompting the lumberjack to catch him. Whoa! What's going on? You drinking now? It's the stuff they injected me with. I guess it's not totally out of my system yet. Wait, what happened after I lost consciousness? SS-008 asked as he steadied himself against the lumberjack. Not long after you sent the transmission, we caught them hauling away the packages. We weren't able to respond with a large enough force, and they got away. Well, that's going to look bad. How many times have I failed? I think this is the 4th time. They were prepared. As I said, this was a trap, and you couldn't adapt. Honestly, I'm baffled that they just left you alive. Anyway, you'll be getting sent back to the program after this to undergo more training so you can scrape off that rust. Until then, kiss the outside world goodbye. That won't be happening, Sergeant. Suddenly, a voice came from behind the lumberjack who was carrying away SS-008. they turned and saw two men in suits approaching them with an entourage of soldiers. SS-008 scanned the soldiers and noticed that they were super soldiers like him from another team. "Mr. President, sir." The lumberjack saluted the president, as did SS-008, albeit with difficulty. He just nodded to them. "At ease." "Except for you, SS-008. "Awaiting your orders, sir." "I have a question for you, SS-008. In your transmission, you said you were injected with a substance. Is that correct?" "Yes, sir. While I was holding a woman hostage, she injected one of my open wounds with an unknown substance." "I see. Did the syringe look anything like this?" The president's aide took out a briefcase and opened it, revealing a syringe inside a slot. There were also two other slots that were empty that should be occupied by syringes. SS-008 looked at it and recognized it. The syringe was the one the woman injected him with, and the briefcase was one of the items he was supposed to retrieve, or at least the items in it were. It was clear the woman got away with them. "Yes, sir. That syringe is the one I was injected with." "So indeed it was." "Sir, I don't know what that substance was, but I can still function. Once I recover, I can go back out with a team and operate as you need me." SS-008 saluted with the utmost respect. This was the president, and he had been taking direct orders from him for almost all his life. However, after a bit of pondering, the president looked at him with odd eyes. SS-008 inwardly frowned at those eyes, and he could immediately tell that something was wrong. He then remembered the words of the woman, and his guard increased. "Sergeant." "Sir." "Step away from SS-008. "Sir?" "That's an order, Sergeant." With an odd look, the lumberjack removed SS-008's arm from around his shoulder and stepped back, leaving him to falter with no support. SS-008 kept himself somewhat upright though using his remaining strength that was slowly recovering. Super Soldier Designation Number 008. From this moment forwards, you are to be decommissioned and inserted into high-security prison for the violation of classification protocols. "Sir, violation?" "SS Team Beta, secure this prisoner and escort him away." "Yes, sir." W8. "How did I violate protocol?" SS-008. "Are you resisting the orders of the president? Are you committing treason?" The man next to the president yelled at SS-008, and the Beta team consisting of 8 soldiers took out electrical rods, clearly threatening him. Stunned, SS-008 felt his adrenaline kick in, and he saluted the president once more. "No, sir. I am questioning the reason for the violation. I am unaware of what I did. You don't need to know what you did wrong, and you have no right to question my orders. SS-008, you will either comply and be peacefully escorted, or you will be forcefully deactivated and dragged to the scrapper." "Sir SS Team Beta, apprehend the prisoner." "This is a direct order." "Sir Ac." Right as he was about to attempt to talk to the president again, the other super soldiers came over to him and whacked him with their electric batons. They had a slightly paralyzing effect that not only targeted the body but his cybernetics. It was clear that the team came prepared to apprehend him specifically. Seeing all this, SS-008 felt something in his mind snap. His body then started to strengthen as he mustered up all the concentration and energy he could. "Get off of me!" Boom! He threw a punch toward one of the super soldiers, sending him flying and planting him in a wall. Everyone looked at SS-008 with surprised faces, shocked at both his strength and the fact that he was defying orders. Adrenaline pushing his weakness away, SS-008 stood up and fended off the other 7 soldiers while enduring the electric shocks that consistently stunned him. "I didn't do anything wrong." Crack! "I was just following orders." Bang! "That crazy bitch just injected me with something. Why am I being decommissioned?" Boom! Going between the soldiers attacking him, SS-008 broke bones, slammed their armor into the floor, and punted them across the factory. All the other personnel in the vicinity backed away, including the president, who felt his heart pounding out of his chest in nervousness and fear. Utilizing all his energy, SS-008 managed to fend off the soldiers and put distance between them. Unfortunately, he was quickly surrounded by other soldiers who pointed high-powered weapons at him. Now, there really wasn't anything he could do, and he slumped to the floor as the last of his strength faded. I didn't do anything wrong. Muttering to himself, SS-008 looked to the lumberjack who was standing near the president. Both of them stared at each other, and SS-008 didn't even look away as people carefully approached him and locked up his arms. A restriction device was put over his head that covered his chest like a breastplate. The device then took control of the cybernetics in his body, deactivating them as well as the nanosuit, which was quickly stripped off. He suddenly felt profoundly weak, even more than before. "Get him out of here," the president spoke after recovering, and the other super soldiers who weren't incapacitated came over and hoisted him up, dragging him out of the factory. He was too weak to even stand. Holy shit. It's him. Why is he locked down? How the hell did they even pull that off? SS-008 was taken all the way to a skyscraper within the city that was the headquarters for government operations. It was one of the tallest buildings there was, and as he was being escorted to an unknown place, the hundreds of people they passed all stared at him, shocked. He was bloodied, his limbs locked up with high-tech restraints, and a mean look was plastered on his face, sending chills down the spines of everyone who saw. By this time, he was able to stand and walk himself, and even the guards escorting him didn't lay a hand on him unless absolutely necessary. It was almost like they were transporting a government official rather than a prisoner with how fearful and respectful they were. As they came down a long corridor on one of the upper floors of the tower though, the group stopped. A man stood in front of them, and he stared at SS-008 with an angry look on his face. It was the lumberjack. "You little piece of shit. Have I not trained you properly? Sir, you can't approach Dash. Get the fuck out of my way. I've dealt with this dog for over a decade. Are you saying you can handle him better than me? Besides, I've got a few things to say." Pushing aside the guard, the lumberjack approached SS-008. They looked into each other's eyes again, but this time, there was clear hostility between both. "Don't look at me like that, you lowlife." Bam! The lumberjack threw a solid punch at his face, causing blood to fly out. SS-008 was sent to the floor, still a bit weak from the deactivation. "Is that it? Not gonna bark like you did earlier? Fuck. It's like all my training was for this. Why the hell did I even bother with you back then, huh?" Thud. Ack. The lumberjack sent a kick this time, sending his steel toe right into his gut. All the wind was knocked out of SS-008, and he was left barely gasping for breath. "Are you really a super soldier? Shit, I might just take you for a normal recruit at this rate. You might as well have just been left in the backwater slums scraping together moldy bread as a child. Maybe when you keeled over from the freezing cold, you could have at least been worth something to the dogs that ate you." Crack. Ah. SS-008 yelled out in pain as the lumberjack circled around him and kicked him right in his spine, causing it to let out a nasty sound. "Humph. You really are just a piece of shit. Don't resist as they go and scrap you for parts. It'll remove you from this world quicker." Pooh. Spitting on his face, the lumberjack turned and walked away. Seeing he was done, the soldiers who were escorting SS-008 went and picked him up again, continuing to drag him. Looking to the back of the lumberjack who turned the corner into a certain hallway, SS-008 ever so slightly smirked through the pain. He could see data streaming through his retina. Rebooting. Recalibrating cybernetics. Scanning body. Warning. SS-008 is in critical condition. Administering applicable doses of medical serum. Activating nanobot repair systems. Warning. Emergency state detected. Activating overdrive. Administering adrenaline serum. Assembling final stand weapon system. With those notifications in his vision, his cybernetics started running in overdrive, and his strength started to return. Certain devices in his body also started to move in his abdomen. On the outside though, nothing appeared to be happening as SS-008 continued to be dragged by the guards. This went on for several more minutes until finally, SS-008 saw the notifications he was waiting for. Medical serum administered. Nerve connections at 94%. Skeletal repair progress, 87%. Muscle systems repair progress, 66%. Current bodily state, temporarily combat capable. Medical attention required. Final stand weapon system constructed. Eject when ready. Seeing that, SS-008 smiled. Then, utilizing the systems in his body, he targeted the restraints and unlocked them. Click! As if that sound was death spell, all the guards froze up in terror. Before they could even react, SS-008 acted. Slice. Splat. With a swing of his arm, all 4 guards around him were decapitated. Their armor didn't do anything to protect them. SS-008 stood up and straightened his back as 4 heads and 4 bodies collapsed to the floor. He spun a long and thick knife in his hand that was a borderline short sword. It had been ejected from his abdomen, and it was the weapon system that was present within every super soldier as a final line of defense. It wasn't just a knife though. After giving it a command, the knife reassembled itself into a pistol with a single magazine of bullets loaded into it. SS-008 glanced at the guards. None of them had weapons except for electric batons, a failsafe so as to ensure he couldn't get a weapon easily should he manage to go free. So since he couldn't get anything from them, not even the armor which had locks on them, he removed the restraints, turned, and ran back the way he came. Retracing his steps, he ran past many people who were once again startled by his appearance. He didn't bother with them though and quickly found the hallway that the lumberjack went down. Turning the corner, he ran through and found an open door. Nobody was around, and SS-008 recognized this as the lumberjack's office. "Get in here, dumbass. You made me wait long enough." SS-008 smiled as he walked into the room. When he did, he could see the lumberjack who was kicked back on a chair. In the office was a standard desk, some bookshelves, and a couch with a coffee table. One thing was new though, and that was the vast assortment of weapons strewn across the floor. "You had me scared for a little while. That's the only time I'm ever gonna save your sorry ass, so don't get used to it. Now, you've got a job to do." "Job?" SS-008 tilted his head as the lumberjack kicked his feet up on his desk, letting out a long plume of smoke from his mouth that was holding a fancy cigar. "Your new job is to escape this godforsaken place. Your assets are anything in this room, except for my chair and my cigar." "Escape, huh? What about you? They'll have your head since you helped me. If I gave a shit I would have left you to be scrapped. Now choose your damn weapons. You'll have to go without a nanosuit, and I don't have any medical supplies, but oh well. I'm sure your scrawny ass can handle a little bit of discomfort." "Sergeant. My name is Gray." The lumberjack, Gray, gave his name. SS-008's eyes went wide. He had never known the guy's name and only ever called him Sergeant since he was a child. "Now get your shit and get on out of here. Sunrise is in 3 hours, so you better be far away from here before then." "Where are you going?" "I'm gonna take care of some business. All I can say is, if you get out of here fast enough, you won't need to worry about these people chasing your tail for a long while." "Why can't you just leave with me?" "Because I don't really feel like it. Now get out of here. Take it as one last order from your damn superior. Have I earned enough of your respect for you to obey me this once?" "Yes, sir." "Good. Now hurry up. Troops are piling up the building as we speak." "Yes, sir." Feeling a tearing inside his chest that he's never felt before, SS-008 went over to one of the walls and grabbed some pistols and a rifle along with some ammo and even grenades. Then, after saluting Gray, who was still casually resting on his chair smoking a cigar, he left the room. Boom! Bang, 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 bang. Shatter. Gunshots and explosions rang out on one of the floors of the skyscraper, blowing holes in the glass and attracting attention from civilians below on the streets. SS-008 was fighting his way down through the floors. At first, he was on floor 63, but he had made his way down to floor 32. Sometimes he jumped outside the skyscraper and descended floors through the outside, sometimes he descended stairwells, sometimes he blew a hole in the floor, and he even took an elevator down a few floors once. No amount of obstacles could stop him. At this point though, he was getting to his objective. He had wreaked anarchy across all the floors where hundreds of soldiers and security guards constantly made trouble for him. But he wasn't planning on descending to the ground floor. No, he was almost right where he wanted to be. Upon reaching floor 30, he looked out the window after killing off several guards. Across a large gap he could see another building, and he was planning to go to it. Last grenade. Do your work. Taking a grenade out of his pocket, he pressed a button and activated it. He then threw it to the glass and took cover. Boom! With an explosion, the entire side of the building was blown out, creating a ledge. SS-008 walked out from behind cover and looked across the way toward the other building. What is it, a bank? Oh well. Shrugging, he created some distance between him and the ledge. Then without hesitation, he broke out in a full sprint and activated his legs to their fullest, launching himself out of the building. Whoosh! The wind blew against him as he sailed through the air over 300 feet above the ground. The lights of the city illuminated his vision, and he looked down to see streets full of cars and spectators. For a moment, he wondered if anybody was able to snap a picture of him. He kept his focus on the building though, which was fast approaching. After getting close, he swung forward his fist with all his might, sending it into the side of the stone building. Bang! The wall crumbled under his fist, and his entire forearm sank into the stone, holding him up. He looked back toward the skyscraper he jumped from and could see soldiers standing at the ledge he jumped from. Humph! Snorting, SS-008 grabbed the new holding and tore his arm out. He then took out his knife that was ejected from his body and inserted it into the wall, letting himself glide down the stone. Once at the bottom, he quickly evaded the soldiers who were flooding out of the skyscraper after him, and using the crowd to his advantage, he managed to disappear from everyone's sights. Sergeant Gray! What the hell is going on? The president, who was absolutely livid, entered Gray's office with another escort of soldiers. After the whole fiasco with SS-008, he came over to his office as he received an extremely urgent message. The president was pissed and wanted to see what exactly Gray had that could help their situation. Contrary to the urgency in his message though, Gray was sitting in his office chair relaxedly. He had a cigar in his mouth and held a picture frame. On it was himself and a woman. None of the guns or any signs that SS-008 entered were present in his office. Gray! Explain yourself right now. Mr. President, I'm going to keep things to the point. Please do. My wife died before we could have kids, and I volunteered for the supersoldier program in hopes of raising a man by my own hand. It was one of my lifelong dreams. What the hell are you talking about? Did you let SS-008 escape? And after all these years, I was finally able to raise a kid into a pretty decent person. He was forged into a weapon, but he still kept his heart. You though. You took that away from me. SS-008? What, was he some kind of child to you? He was a soldier. Yes he was, but he was also my son. At least, that's how I raised him. So you were the one to let him go. Sergeant Gray, what you just did makes you a traitor to the state. Men, apprehend and prepare this man for execution. This scum will pay for his crimes. Humph, in your dreams, you demented piece of shit. Gray chuckled and flexed his hand. Suddenly, beeping sounds came from all throughout the room, and the president's eyes widened. You son of a dash. Asterisk boom. Asterisk. An explosion annihilated everything, going so far as to destroy the entire 63rd floor of the skyscraper. Flames spewed out from all the glass and into the outside world, separating the 100-story building in two. Boom! Suddenly, SS-008, who was walking off out of the city, heard an explosion in the distance. He turned around to look back at the city and could see the skyscraper and the flames billowing out of it. Then, the top half of the building tipped over and fell. Something like this was something you'd see in a large-scale terrorist attack. He felt tremendous pain seeing that though. The one man he was friends with. The one man who had shown him the concept of a father. Gray. He felt the tearing in his chest again. The emotional pain physically hurt him, and for a long while, he stood there, enduring. After some time though, he was interrupted. It was the dark of night, and he was out in the barren areas outside the city. But out of nowhere, he could sense some shadowy figures approach him. SS-008. We've been waiting. The madam wishes to see you. Chapter 3, and I would be reborn. Who the hell are you guys? SS-008 looked around with a menacing gaze, clearly not in a good mood. There were 16 shadowy figures that revealed themselves as women. One of them had spoken to him. The woman was beautiful and curvy, and along with the skin-tight bodysuit, she looked like some kind of sexy ninja. All of the women around him were like that. SS-008 just looked at her with frigid coldness though, as if she was some kind of joke. The woman answered him with a neutral gaze. The madam who you took hostage earlier. She wishes to see you. That crazy bitch? Tell her that she can shove those syringes she stole up her ass. I want nothing to do with her. Unfortunately, we can't allow that. You must come with us. The woman's eye twitched at the insult to her madam, but she quelled her rising anger. She couldn't fail her mission to retrieve this super soldier, no matter what she felt. Hearing her insistence, SS-008 snarled. I'd like to see you make me. Bang! Raising his gun, he went on to fire at the woman. Mysteriously though, she disappeared when the bullet hit. The next moment, all the other women moved and attacked. Some took out items like spears and others took out guns. SS-008 was put under fire, but not even getting hit by a bullet would stop him. Facing the women, he shot at each one while moving to dodge. As he moved though, the weakness in his body started to overtake him. He had exerted himself and gotten more wounds while fighting in the skyscraper, and his body had already reached its limit. He was fighting on sheer will now, and to put up a fight against a bunch of specialists was asking a lot of him. He didn't go down with nothing though. Only after a whole minute of shooting and killing 9 of the women did he start to go down. A stun bullet was the last thing to hit him, and it caused him to give out. Ack! With a pained shout, SS-008 couldn't help it as he fell to his knees and then to the floor, getting a face full of cold dirt. With him incapacitated, the original woman walked over to him as his consciousness faded. You damn bastard. If the madam didn't request for you, I would have gutted you like a pig. Ha! Bringing back her foot, the woman let out a venomous shout and kicked him across the face, knocking him out. Hello, hey? Hey! Wake up! Ha! There he is. I knew you wouldn't die so easily. I mean, how could you with your reputation? SS-008 slowly woke up to a familiar voice. As his eyes opened and vision focused, he found that a woman was standing over him, her face directly in front of his. Good morning, sleepyhead. Ack! You! What? What's going on? As SS-008 was going to push the woman away, he found that all his limbs were tied down. As he looked around, he found that he was on some kind of stretcher bed within a dark room. I saved your life. Well, you would have survived anyway, but I definitely helped. Why am I tied down? Well, I can't have you running amok, now can I? It won't be for long though. After all, we have things to do, and not a lot of time to do it in. Rumble. After she spoke, the ground trembled like an earthquake. The woman looked up toward the ceiling. Looks like they've got in. What? Who? Your friends are here to destroy my super-secret hideout. After the president was killed, they all went crazy and launched attacks jointly with the neighboring governments and defense agencies. Several of my bases have been destroyed, and now they're coming after me. They probably think I was behind the assassination. This place is under siege? You? Who the hell are you? SS-008 spoke as he scanned the woman. When she was his hostage, she didn't seem all that important and he didn't really think about who she might be. But now she was being attacked by several military groups. She definitely wasn't someone small. You're saying you don't know me? Well, since you were kept so in the dark, I guess that's normal. Then allow me to introduce myself. I have 3 names. The first is the name I gave myself, Athena, the goddess of war and wisdom. The second is Super Soldier Designation 202, the tag I received from my program. And the third is Head of the Council. When she finished, the woman grinned at SS-008, whose eyes went wide. Head of the Council. You were a super soldier? Indeed I was. I was in the 2nd generation. Unfortunately, my brain apparently couldn't handle Phase 3 and I was abandoned as a failed subject. They said I became too psychopathic and mentally unstable to continue with the program. I don't know what they were thinking though. I mean, just look at the empire I created. The woman spun around with her arms wide, gesturing to her super-secret hideout and the council that she ran. SS-008 stared at her, conflicted thoughts going through his mind. So that's who you were. You were the devil of Class 2. Devil? So they have a name for me there, huh? You created the largest criminal syndicate in the world. You've carried out dozens of large-scale terrorist attacks. I've been fighting against a failed super soldier all this time. Indeed you have. I must say, meeting one of my own is refreshing. So robust and pleasing to the eye. I'm sure we would have gotten along well despite the fact that we're all orphans. You know, find comfort in each other's arms and all. Don't touch me. He. The woman giggled like a little girl as she came over and played with his hair. He just looked at her like she was insane though. The head of the council. This was a person that governments around the world had been hunting for over a decade. They had the public believing that the head was some evil man who could genocide without batting an eye. But little did they know that the governments were the ones who created this monster. The super soldier program had plenty of failed subjects. Those that failed were often driven insane, became disabled, or were mentally impaired. This girl was one of the luckier ones, and she came out as a high-functioning failure. Unfortunately, a high-functioning psychopath wasn't someone you wanted out on the streets. Especially one who had a grudge against you. But based on everything she did, the criminal empire she built and the attacks she carried out, she proved herself to be one of the most intelligent people on the planet. She put the entire criminal underworld on a leash and turned it against the world establishments in such a short amount of time. Only an evil genius could do something like that. So naturally, SS-008 was shocked. This was a monumental secret that would flip the world upside down if the public knew. To think the bane of the civilized world was created by the world leaders themselves. But you know, you're very impressive yourself, Super Soldier Designation 008. The woman smiled as she backed away from his bed and picked up some papers. Let's see. Top soldier in the program, enough to earn you a single-digit designation. You've been running black operations since you were 13. An orphan from the slums taken in when you were 6. Exceptional performance in adaptability and effective combat. Can take out entire military strongholds by yourself. Well, I think that's obvious considering what you just did. Is that my file? How did you get that? Using a little something called the internet and a printer. You have dozens of cybernetic implants. Bone strengthening, artificial blood, a synthetic heart, compacted muscles, invisibility skin, electronic hacking systems. And you even have the neural interface. that was the part that messed me up. My brain couldn't adapt to the AI they tried to insert. SS008 was silent. The AI interfacing was indeed the part that failed most subjects. During Phase 3, the last phase of the program, the brain was injected with a serum that made your brain more capable of interacting with electromagnetic waves. Then, they attached a neural device that could tap directly into your brain through those waves. On that device was an AI, and it would provide an onboard computer as well as increase neural activity permanently. It was advanced tech, but many subjects couldn't handle the interface. The neural acceleration could go so far as to fry people's brains, and it had a very low success rate. But for those that succeeded, they would be turned into super soldiers. You could even say that the previous phases were merely preparation for Phase 3. Anyway, it looks like we both had plenty of success due to the program despite our totally divergent paths. Although you were basically disowned, you still earn one of the most fearsome reputations around the world. People call you the Grim Reaper itself. The Boogeyman, the Steel Demon, the Emissary of Darkness. They're horrible names, but I guess nobody cares about that when they're about to die. Oh. And there's also this. Saying that, the woman walked up to him and pulled the collar of his shirt down, exposing the tattoo on his neck. The black cat. A symbol of bad luck, and one that you never want to cross paths with. People in the Middle Ages used to kill black cats due to their association with the underworld. Black cats were also associated with witches. It's rather fitting since you, my friend, surely are the walking incarnation of bad luck. The woman smiled mysteriously, and SS008 couldn't respond. Was he the one who had bad luck, being brought into the super soldier program at a young age? Or were his enemies those unlucky victims? This was a dilemma that he had pondered a lot, and it was actually the reason he got this tattoo. Gray was the one who had given him the idea after saying something similar, so he decided to get it. When this woman stated that he was the incarnation of bad luck, he once again fell into that dilemma. His mood worsened thinking about it all. Rumble. The room shook again as the woman stared at him from a chair, her chin resting on her palm. SS008 couldn't tell what she was thinking, but after a while of silence, her mouth opened. I feel bad. You have feelings? Of course. Not many, but I still have them. Anyway, I feel sad since you lost your sergeant. He's the one who set off that explosion, right? Oh, I made you more sad. Well, I don't know if it'll make up for it, but I guess I should tell you about the serum you were injected with. Saying that, the woman stood up. Clap clap. With 2 claps, the surroundings suddenly lit up. SS008 looked around. They were in a large underground room. On one side of the room was the person-sized cyclotron, and in the middle of the room was a table with 2 syringes on it inside a container. The woman walked over to the syringes and looked at them. I told you before. These syringes hold a glorious substance. Tell me, do you believe in the concept of souls? Souls? I don't know. Well, you better believe it. Let me take you back though. Once upon a time, there was a group of scientists who managed to create a portal that could poke through dimensions. Unfortunately, whenever someone tried to enter the portal, they were rejected and killed. It was weird because while the people would be physically injured, the injuries were never fatal, yet they would still die a little while after being rejected. Why? Well, it turns out that the portal destroyed their souls. Or something like that. Anyway, those scientists then started to make a device or serum that could prevent one from dying and let them enter the portal. To do this, they needed something that protected the soul. Well, this serum is supposedly their first successful attempt, and I did everything I could to get my hands on it. I used practically every resource I had to even get the chance to take this stuff. I know it's hard to believe. I couldn't believe it either. But the world is advancing further than you know, and this stuff is no longer science fiction. As for the portal, the reason they want to enter it so bad is because they managed to prove that it led somewhere. Somewhere solid, like a landmass. Somewhere with life signs. They actually found another world, hence the project's codename, Project Wonderland. The most classified project in the world. Of course, I couldn't just let those idiots have this. So I stole all their tech, the only 3 serums in existence, the portal, and almost all the data on the subject. This pissed them off to no end though, and that's why they sent you. Then, things went as you know it. Our lives were turned upside down in only a day. Pretty crazy, huh? So what do you plan to do? Rumble. The room rumbled as SS-008 questioned. He was rather enlightened about things. He usually knew nothing about the operations he ran, so getting such classified information was nice. Only, he couldn't help but have a foreboding feeling. Sure enough, the woman revealed an unnatural smile. What do you mean? I'm planning to enter the portal. And you're coming with me. Hey scientist guy. Start up the portal. The woman shouted after dropping that bombshell on SS-008, prompting a man to enter the room and walk up to the portal. After pressing a few buttons, the portal activated, and massive amounts of energy congealed in the center of the portal, creating a swirling wall of purple plasma. Hey, you want to see something cool? Watch this. Smiling widely, the woman grabbed the man who just booted up the portal and shoved him into it. Shocked, the man tried to fight back, but he was thrown off balance and fell straight towards the plasma. Surprisingly though, he wasn't burned or stopped. His body entered the portal, but only moments later, it came flying back out like it was spat out. Now, his body had horrible burns on the skin. Ugh! Ah! The man groaned and struggled for a short amount of time, but eventually, the life faded from his eyes. SS-008 watched, half curious and half mortified. The man really shouldn't have died since the injuries weren't lethal, yet he still did. See? Nobody has ever been able to survive entering the portal. That always happens. But now with the serums, we should be able to enter. Supposedly it isolates and strengthens your soul to allow it to survive the transportation. Or something like that. You've already got it in you, and now, I need it. The woman skipped over to the table next and picked up one of the syringes. She then stuck it in a vein, injecting everything at once and letting out a groan of pleasure. Ah. I promise I don't do drugs. Now, since we have one more, and I want to be extra sure, let's take both. Giggling to herself, she grabbed the second syringe and injected it just like the first without any regard for safety. SS-008 stared at her incredulously, his opinion of her being insane solidifying in his heart. Haha. I can already feel it flowing. I don't want to pass out like you though, so we should move quickly. Huh? No, there's no way. What? You've got the serum, so you should be fine. I'm the one who's more at risk here since I haven't acclimated yet. Now, are you ready to start a new life? You're crazy. That thing will kill us both. How does a serum protect you from that? Ha ha ha. I don't know. But hey, it's ride or die now, isn't it? After all, the enemies are going to break in any second now, and I've got a bomb that's going to blow this place to smithereens once we enter. Rumble. The room shook even harder as if affirming her statement. SS-008 knew that they were in a bad position, but he felt that he could fight his way out. He had done that in every other impossible situation. If he could just get out of the restraints, he could go out and face them. But this woman wouldn't let him go. She was insisting on dragging him into certain doom. If he was going to die, it was going to be on his terms. Damn it, you crazy bitch. I'm not dying yet. Let me go. Ouch. That's hurtful, you know. And you won't die. Just trust me. No. Let me out. Ha ha. Come on. You and me, isn't it romantic? Charging off into unknown lands for salvation. Hey, maybe we'll meet on the other side. Wouldn't that be awesome? No. Don't drag me down with you. Come on. Just relax for once. Now, it's time. I'm starting to get woozy, so the stuff is kicking in. In fact, I'm starting to feel a connection between us. Can you feel that? It's like we've become connected. The woman spoke as the serums started to kick in, and SS-008 was stunned. He could in fact feel a connection to her. It was faint, but it was strengthening over time. It was like some kind of sixth sense, and they could almost begin to feel each other through it. It was incredibly odd, and SS-08 started to properly freak out. What the hell is this? Haha. I have no idea. But hey, now we have a super special bond. Maybe we'll fly with each other across time and space. Now, we should hurry and enter. Are you ready? Smiling broadly, the woman got behind his hospital bed and prepared to push. In front of him was the portal, otherwise known as death. Arg! Damn it all! Ha ha! Here we go! SS-008 yelled in frustration. He couldn't do anything, and he was being dragged along with this crazy psychopath who he now had some weird connection with. She just laughed though, and with her words, she pushed the bed forward. To freedom! Ag! With a laugh and a roar, two people entered the portal. Moments later, the entire room exploded with a bright flash. The super-secret hideout was annihilated, along with it the greatest technological pieces of work in the world. Foreign entity detected. Evaluating entity. Human soul detected. Evaluating human attributes. Attributes detected. Attributes assigned. Inherent traits detected. Traits assigned. Skills assigned. Profile complete. Searching for suitable vessel. Compatible vessel found. Assigning vessel. Descending soul. Wah! Wah! Congratulations, madam. It's a boy. Inside of a luxurious bedroom, a maid who was acting as a midwife cleaned a baby and then handed it to the mother who recently gave birth. The mother tenderly held the boy who slowly started to calm down and stop crying. He has pale skin, but we checked him and he's perfectly healthy. Thank you. He probably got that from his father Dash. Bang! Honey? How'd it go? Sorry I'm late. Suddenly, a man dressed in a cloak busted into the room. He quickly laid eyes on his wife with the child in her arms. It's a boy. A boy. Ha. That makes it even now, huh? Ah. Wah. Wah. Ugh, honey. Tone it down, will you? Sorry. Sheepishly chuckling, the cloaked man made his way over to the bed while removing his hood, revealing a pale but exquisite face. He took a look at his child in his wife's arms, who was startled by his roaring voice. After the child calmed again, the man spoke. So since it's a boy, which name are we choosing? Both parents looked at the child, pondering. After some time, the man spoke. Arlo? No. Why not? Just, no. Fine. Rolling his eyes, the man went back to pondering. The next moment though, his eyes lit up. I got it. How about Dirk? Dirk? It's not bad. Ha ha. Yes. That's it. From now on, this boy shall be named Dirk Strider, fourth child of the noble Strider household. Laughing in celebration, the man declared the child's name. The mother didn't object, meaning she gave her approval. Meanwhile, the child, who had gained the consciousness of a recently arrived soul, stared up at the two adults in front of him with baffling confusion.